Is the Rooney Rule broken?
You're not going to hear a whole lot of people arguing that it's working. You will hear some say, hey, it's better than it was, which isn't actually something that resembles equality. This is coming up because Eric Bieniemy is one of the candidates that you would think if this person were a white person, this is a person who would look like he would get the next head coaching job. But the reason the Rooney Rule is not working since being implemented in 2003 is above the coaches. It's because you've got nothing in ownership that is a minority. You've got one black general manager, and until people in power are comfortable hiring people who don't look like them, sound like them, come from experiences like them, it becomes impossible for the Rooney Rule to be anything more than gift wrapping around an issue that can't be solved until the power solves it.
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely right. There are always two main talking points for the Rooney Rule apologists in the NFL. The first one being that things are cyclical, and to your point, there was 3 black head coaches when it was implemented in 2003. More recently, there was 8. Now there's 3 again, but that will course correct eventually. The second talking point is always that, well, the pipeline to being a head coach is first being a coordinator, specifically an offensive coordinator, and of course, there's just not a huge group to choose from as it relates to minority coordinators. And that, to me, is the problem, that the Rooney Rule only applies to head coaching positions and GMs. It doesn't apply to coordinators. And you bring up Eric Bieniemy, I'm going to bring up Byron Leftwich. Listen, he's an offensive coordinator for Tampa, and despite having Mr. Pick 6 under center for him, he helped orchestrate an offense that had more passing yards per game than anybody in the entire NFL. Yes, even more than your beloved Ravens and your Chiefs. And he couldn't even get an interview. He couldn't even be the token black dude that you talk to in order to check that box. And that, to me, is the issue, is that until they start implementing some rules to make sure that coordinators are giving that opportunity, there's no pipeline for them.
Yeah, you guys are both right. It's below and above the coaching positions. It's the ownership in GMs that don't reflect the 70% of the league that is black, that is players. And it's the pipeline that doesn't have enough minority candidates in it. How do you fix those? Well, it's any number of things, but part of that, I think, has to be people who are willing to speak up, people who are willing to advocate for others. And even then it might be a problem, because Andy Reid's been telling everyone, steal my best guy. I want him to have the opportunity. And that's rare for a head coach, right? To have to advocate on behalf of other teams, stealing a guy who's been so successful for him in Eric Bieniemy with the Chiefs. You know, this is something that we go over and over again. 2 of the last 19 head coaching positions in the last 3 years have gone to black candidates. It's not going to be an easy fix until the ideas and the beliefs of the people in charge change and the look of the people in charge changes. And I don't know if I'm any more hopeful than either of you that that's going to happen anytime soon.
As we talk about Byron Leftwich, as we sit here and look at Eric Bieniemy, imagine what they think, because there is no such thing as a black Joe Judge. There is no such thing as a black Cliff Kingsbury who gets to fail his way through Texas Tech, and then the next thing you know, he's a head coach. If Bieniemy's looking at that, if Byron Leftwich, who played in the league and has done things on the sidelines that are now grunt work with these film sessions, they don't get to skip the line the way some of these other guys do.
Well, and as importantly, when they do get an opportunity, if it doesn't work out perfectly, they're gone and they don't get another shot. Meanwhile, there are other white coaches who have failures in one spot and get to try it again somewhere else. That doesn't happen. It happens 10% less often for coaches of color. And Dan, you mentioned Chris Grier of the Dolphins. Is that not the perfect example here? We have one black general manager in the league, and he went out and hired a black head coach, one of the 3 in the league. If that's not an example of what happens when you put minority people in these decision-making positions, then what is?
I have 2 words that prove to me that it's a good old boy network and always will be. Chan Gailey. That man has failed at every single level he's been at, and they're pulling him out of retirement?
Yes. We're not even making Chans anymore. The baby makers are not making Chans anymore.